Celtics Preview is brought to you by PrizePicks.
Welcome in, everybody. Evan Valenti solo this week. Kaufman taking a little August vacation as we ramp up for football season. Obviously, basketball season is coming up, but Adam just trying to get away a little bit more, spend some family time, and then come back here, obviously ripping and ready to go for the remainder of this summer. Of course, we get ready for the NBA season 25-26. Schedule just came out. We'll get to that a little bit later if we have a little bit of time. Joined for the first time on this show, and this is one of the things that I do whenever I get the chance to host the show solo and during the summer, when we can take some time and highlight some guys that are younger on the beat, a little bit fresher, a little bit, I wouldn't say green, because Jack, you're doing a great job of a lot of the things that you do, but welcome onto the show the first time, Jack. Simone, Jack, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Excited to be here and excited to talk Celtics.
It's a pleasure to have you, my friend, and we'll get into a lot of things on this show because there's been some news. We'll get into that, but I want to start and highlight something you've been doing this summer, and it's these videos that you're posting of like past Celtics guys, whether they're getting bags or throwing outlet passes or crossing people up. I've really enjoyed this particular series you've put together. I loved having Sam Sheehan flip out over just Jared Sullinger outlet passes. I will be honest with you. I did forget about how good he was at that because there were things that he wasn't so great at, but he was a hell of an outlet passer. Shades of Kevin Love for sure. In this particular project that you've put together, has there been someone that you've come across that you didn't quite love their game before, and now you're like, wow, I absolutely freaking love this guy?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if it's necessarily like I didn't love their game before and I loved it now. I think it's more like, oh, I forgot how much I appreciated it. Like Evan Turner's playmaking. I did like Evan Turner passes. I was like, wow, he was sick. Like that's incredible. I watched like every Sam Hauser three for the past, like his whole career. I watched every one to find all the no dip ones, which ended up being like a 45-second video, which doesn't match up with the time I put in, the time I put out. But watching him navigate screens, I know he's not a pass guy, but he's crazy to watch the way he has done that. The biggest one though, Phil Pressey, who's now the coach of the Maine Celtics, I did like Phil Pressey flashy passes. Like 50% of this guy's assists were just the craziest passes. It was like an insane ratio. Like I'm thinking I'm gonna have to dig through, find like 12 passes that were really flashy. It was just like half of the assists he ever had in Boston were these ridiculous, like flashy, do it all passes. So that was fun. But shout out Pitless B-Ball and Brett Usher. Those guys have been doing like these types of videos for random players around the league. And I was like, you know what? Let me do that for Celtics fans who are probably starving for content right now.
I'll tell you, Phil Pressey was awesome at Mizzou. Like, we watched him in college, and this is back when guys would like stay in college a couple of years. Phil Pressey was awesome at Mizzou. So when he came to Boston, he was a second rounder, I believe, and was a little like, yeah, he has a lot of seasoning to him. Not the tallest guy in the world, which is obviously part of the reason why it didn't work out for him. He's just a little bit too short. There have been multiple guys like this throughout NBA history that have obvious skills and can clearly play basketball, but just don't have the height to play at the highest level that we have here in the world. But like, you look at what he could do, like to just be a floor general, like, and I'm talking about legit, like there's not too many like floor general guys anymore. I think Chris Paul is like the dying breed of this pound the rock and everybody in where they need to go and get the ball there. Phil Pressey was a similar, like obviously not Chris Paul, but yeah, a similar mold in that. I want you to go back. I want to give one to you because I don't know if you've done this guy yet. And if you've done it, I missed it.
Please.
So I apologize for that. But I want you to go back and just watch Brandon Bass take mid-range shots if you can find it.
That was my biggest video. It's out there. I'll send it to you.
Really?
I did Brandon Bass mid-ranges. That got the most traction, I think, of all the videos I did. I think on Twitter, let me find it. I mean, I assume if I just search Brandon Bass mid-range, no one else is going to be tweeting that.
No.
Of all the ones I got, that one got like 1.2 million impressions. People loved Brandon Bass mid-range. I'll send it to you right now.
Dude, my dad is like not even a huge Celtics fan. He watches because obviously I have the podcast and stuff. But when I first started like really diving into Celtics basketball, I don't think there's a bigger fan like outside of Brandon Bass's family of Brandon Bass than my father. My father absolutely loves Brandon Bass. He's 6'8", looks like he could play defensive end or tight end.
Yep.
for your favorite football team, and it was just absolutely money in the mid range. I mean, as you've now gone back and watched, absolutely disgusting. Like, if he was open from 12 to 15 feet, like, just put 2 on the board because it's going in the hoop, no question.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the second clip in my video is him stepping in from a wide open top of the key 3 and pulling up from the free throw line and taking a mid-range jumper. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, wow, Joe Mazzulla would bench him right there and never let him see the floor again for passing up the open 3 for a mid-range shot. He was the epitome of, wow, that was a different time when basketball
different era, dude.
was played.
I mean, it's like, if you watch KG, like, KG used to piss everybody off because he'd have his heel on the 3-point line. Like, dude, if you just took one step backwards, it'd be worth 1 more point. And his point was like, this is my shot. This is where I shoot the ball. So I'm like, who am I to argue with Kevin Garnett? You know,
man.
I'm just like the guy hosting the podcast, and he's one of the greatest 25 players of all time. So, you know, what do I know? The other one I would say is like another mid-range maestro, as I call him, is Avery Bradley. If you go back and watch Avery Bradley tape, he is going to be another guy that, like, a lot of the analytics will say, don't shoot that shot. And I would say, yeah, don't, unless you're Avery Bradley, because he just hits that shot routinely. Yep. So if you need another, you know, as you're trying to create, you know, more content for us as we try and bridge the gap between now and training camp, a guy I would just for mid-range shots is Avery Bradley, who was,
I can do that
at the time, was the number 1 high school recruit in America when he got recruited to Texas, even over John Wall, and John Wall obviously overtook that when he went to Kentucky, but that's what it is.
Shout out.
I do want to also point out another great project you did in Vegas was talking to a lot of these, you know, summer league Celtics guys. So it was Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh, or I think you did one with Amari Williams as well. I watched a good amount of them. What did you learn anything, either like how these guys see the game, or did you learn maybe something that a wrinkle that you didn't see the first time that they point out to you next time, or was it more of like, wow, like I got to know Amari Williams and like this is a really smart player, etc. You know what I mean?
I think it's a little of both. I think my biggest goal with those videos, I watched film, like some of their plays I did, like you said, Shireman, Walsh, and Amari Williams, was just trying to bridge the gap between fans and the players. I feel like we just watch these players like, oh, they're really good at basketball. We don't really understand how they see the floor, how they do what they do. And so I kind of wanted to know what they were seeing on the floor, understand how they process the game. And that's kind of the biggest thing I took from it was, in order to process the game at the speed that, you know, is required at the NBA level, you have to see so many different things. Like Baylor Shireman broke down how he saw Nimi was in a mismatch, and he knew if he drove left at a certain point after his guy, you know, shifted to the left, he would be able to catch him off guard and then fake the lob. Like, they're just watching so many small movements that us as, you know, media members and fans and whoever else is watching these games don't necessarily see. They have to, in order to do things that we just kind of, you know, take for granted. Amari Williams was looking across the court at Gigi Jackson because Gigi Jackson's eyes weren't on the ball, and so he could make a cross-court pass to Miles Norris, who's no longer on the team, but to shoot a three-point like they're just looking at so many small, subtle details. And I thought it was really cool to, you know, understand what they were seeing in order to make the plays that they do.
Yeah, oftentimes, you know, we're all sitting on the couch or in a chair watching on a computer screen. There's so many little subtleties that totally get lost in a 48 minute basketball game. I mean, you know, we all try to think we totally understand the game, and yet these guys are operating at a whole, and just more of like a respect the craft sort of situation where you're like, wow, I can't believe like these, and they do with like football too. All these guys that like crush tape in football, they all can point out some of these subtle things, like this play really works because the guard pulled here and hit this guy here, which brings this guy here. Like, there's so many little things that go along with with being a professional athlete that like just the most of us can't think about. So I want to commend both of those projects. They were really awesome. Before we get into like the heavy hitting stuff, because there's obviously some things we can talk about. I want to quickly get to the schedule release, because I only need to ask one question to you about this: is, do you care? Because I don't. People get crazy over the schedule release, and I'm one of those guys of like, 41 home, 41 away. Okay, we're done. See you later. Bye.
From the perspective that I'm probably going to be at a good amount of these games, I care just to like to know where I'll be and when I'll be home and when. But other than that, not really. I tend to stay on your side of things. It's like, They'll play the Lakers once away and once home. They'll play all Western Conference teams once away and once home. They'll play the division teams 2-2, and then everything else is just kind of like whatever. It'll happen when it happens. They'll probably play New York and Philly early in the season. Shocker, they play New York and Philly early in the season. Like it's just the same thing every year, it feels like. So outside of the which rivalry games are when, I guess it's kind of cool to know when you'll get to watch Celtics, Lakers, and Luka and LeBron, and then Cooper Flag's first game in Boston. Like it's kind of cool to see some of those tidbits, but for the most part, I'm just like, all right, let's get it going here.
Yeah, I highlighted a stretch. It's in late November. That's going to be really tough. And like part of the reason why I don't care is because, as we all can kind of acknowledge, this is not going to be our typical Celtics year where they're competing for a championship. This is more of an off year, as I think we all can kind of understand. But there's a stretch in late November that's really tough. And this is like, as you look at everybody's roster and you're trying to figure out who's going to be good, this stretch late November, Magic, Pistons, Wolves, Cavs, Knicks, like that's going to be a really tough 5-game stretch. As I looked at it quickly this morning, I'm like, I really don't care. But as I scrolled, I just wanted to have a little bit of a talk about it. I look at that stretch and I'm like, man, that is tough. And I look at it and like part of me wants to say that Magic game might be the toughest one of the stretch because of the addition of Desmond Bane and the fact that you swept them. They're going to want to kick your ass for sure. Like Paolo Banchero is going to come in and be like, I'm gonna punk you guys. Like I'm so sick of you. I'm so sick of you guys. And Paolo's the man. I love Paolo, so it's not like I'll take it with a great, I'll take it on the chin on that one. But like if you look at those 5, I know the Cavs are good. Obviously last year, a disappointing loss to the Pacers who haven't going to the NBA Finals. The Knicks are always going to be fun just because the rivalry is kind of like the Knicks. It's been ignited a little bit. I love the Pistons. I'm a big Cade guy. I've always been a Cade guy. I held all my stock throughout all the downs. I love the guy so much. He's one of my favorites. And I think that basketball is better when the Pistons are good. Then obviously Edwards and the Wolves are always going to be tough. But like that stretch, like probably going to be 0-5 probably in that stretch if I had to guess.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Minnesota, Cleveland on the road too. Then you got to come back to play New York. Like those two are back-to-back, the road Minnesota, Cleveland games. Orlando is going to be really good next year. I think Desmond Bane's going to do a lot for them. I still don't love their center position with Wendell Carter Jr., but I don't think that matters that much when you have Paulo Franz, Desmond Bane, 3 guys who could probably be all-stars. I like the Pistons too. I wish they did a little more this summer. I don't think it was really their fault, the Malik Beasley situation, but
yeah, I agree with that.
They're going to be getting Jaden Ivey back from injury, so that's good. Like you said, like Ant's going to be Ant. The Cavs are probably going to be pretty good again. Then New York is New York. So like that's 5 games in a row of bona fide playoff teams who the Celtics are going to have to just run the gauntlet with and hope for the best, I guess. And 0-5 could be a realistic possibility. Luckily, they do have 2 games against Brooklyn right before that. So hopefully it can be like a little confidence booster as they go into that 5-game stretch.
I think we're going to be looking at the Celtics' first 3-game losing streak in like 3 years pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stats has been like Boston just hasn't lost 3 games in a row in like 3 years. Pretty much since the Miami Heat went up 3-0 on them and then they crawled back to force game 7. Like that was the last time they lost 3 games in a row. So that's a pretty impressive.
It's pretty cool
stat. That's pretty cool. Like, I don't know. As you try to like debate people, you're like, well, I'm sorry that I have all this confidence that the Celtics are going to be good, but like they just haven't lost 3 games in a row. So until it happens, like I just have to take it with the evidence that we have. We're going to take a quick break here from our friends at PrizePicks. Come back, talk a little more C's with our buddy Jack Simone. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more, you pick less on at least 2 players for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. That is 2 3 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. We have more preseason football flex play on tap for you this week. 2 out of 3 last week, which is good for 1x. That's still a win. We love it. With that in mind, we have 3 more for your flex play of the weekend. More preseason football. Jackson Smith and Jigba, one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. We're going more than 15.5 receiving yards. It's like 2 catches for him. He's dynamic, short, intermediate, and long. He is a fantastic option for flex play this week. To keep it Patriots related, everyone's favorite undrafted free agent, Efton Chisholm, more than 26.5 receiving yards. Now, he's had a lot of reps this week, both with the 2s and the 1s. He had a great week last week in week 1 of the preseason. We're going to ride Chisholm this week. And then Jackson Dart, first-round pick of the football Giants, more than 80.5 passing yards. He had over 145 in week 1. I think he clears that in week 2. Again, flex play. If you hit all 3, that's 3x or 1x. If you hit 2 out of 3, super easy. You don't have to even hit all 3 for your play to win. You're getting your money. Money could not be any easier in as little as 15 minutes. Watch that money roll into your account, Venmo, bank account, debit card, you name it, they do it. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Code CLNS. $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Back to the show. Welcome back, Celtics Beat. My buddy Jack Simone joining us for the first time ever on this show. And I want to just take a quick second that if you aren't following us and aren't subscribed to things, let me lay it all out for you because it's a lot going on. If you're listening to us, whether it's audio or visual, make sure you subscribe to both Celtics Beat on iTunes, on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube to the CLNS Celtics All Access channel. We're going to be there. You're going to see everybody. I mean, I don't think anybody's covering the Celtics better than CLNS is right now, just because of all the content that we are currently generating. So follow us all there. But not only that, Pat's guys have been killing it at Patriots camp. Mike Cadlick, Taylor Kyles, Alex Barth, and I'm forgetting a guy. I apologize for that. It's a Friday. But everybody down there is doing a spectacular job. So make sure you follow along on the Patriots All Access channel as well on CLNS. Just, again, a little, bookkeeping stuff that we have to do. But back here on the show, and I wasn't actually prepared to do this, but as I thought about it more, it could be a fun conversation. And Jack, if you haven't seen this yet, I apologize for springing this on you. This kind of came out yesterday. And I don't normally do stuff like this because, look, if like Himmelsbach doesn't tweet it, or if it doesn't come from Brian Robb, or if it doesn't come from Steve Bullpat, like there are certain guys we all know and trust. So like I take this with a grain of salt because I don't think anybody knows the answer to this yet. But it's a report from Grant Afseth. I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
Who works for Fast Break Journal, amongst other things. Had the report sources, quote, Celtics plan to start Payton Pritchard after trading Drew Holiday, end quote. I disagree with that for a couple reasons. One, I don't think they know this yet. I don't think they know who the hell is going to start right now. I don't think they know if this is the actual roster they plan on having and carrying to start 2025. I know it's definitely not going to be how it ends. But I don't think, even with all that said, I wouldn't start Payton Pritchard to begin the season unless there's an injury problem. I wouldn't start him ever. And that's not a shot at Payton Pritchard. It's more about schematically trying to put the best lineup out there. Maybe he closes games in the fourth, as we all know, like just because you start doesn't mean you close. But I don't see Payton Pritchard starting for the Celtics, at least to start the year. Do you?
I do. I think I do. I think he should start. I think Payton Pritchard, I think it's Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Payton Pritchard. I think those are the 3 best players on the roster heading into next season. I think those 3 players should be on the court as much as possible. And I think that includes starting. And if you're the Celtics, right, you see Payton Pritchard in your post Drew Holiday, post Porzingis, Horford, post the iteration of the team that won a title world. And he's not only under contract this year, but he's under contract next year and the next year on a phenomenal deal. And it's almost like you need to get the most out of him. And not only do I think it's smart to start him so you can sort of get him ready to be the starter, the long-term starter when Tatum is healthy, but I also think he's just really good, right? He is a guy who won 6th Man of the Year last year, extremely efficient, a great shot creator, a great playmaker, an underrated defender. I just posted one of my videos on Payton Pritchard defense from last year because somebody replied to me saying, no, do his defense. He doesn't have any. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll do his defense. There you go. And he is just a 20-point per game scorer who hasn't gotten the chance to be a 20-point per game scorer. Like, I truly believe that. He averaged 14 last year behind Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. And now you're telling me you're going to take out 3 of those guys, one of whom had the most touches on the team by a pretty wide margin. Jaylen Brown needs as much floor spacing as possible on top of that. And so add Payton Pritchard's 3-point floor spacing to give Jaylen even more room to work. I just think it makes a lot of sense to run with Payton Pritchard, Derek White as your backcourt. You have Derek White, Jaylen Brown, elite defenders, Payton Pritchard, who I think holds his own a lot better than people realize. I think he's a good defender. Add in the fact that it's going to benefit your offense. Add in the fact that I think it's going to benefit the Celtics lineup moving forward into the future of preparing him to play that role. I think it makes a ton of sense to play Payton Pritchard, and I think he's going to make an even bigger leap than he did last year.
Yeah, I'll push back on that only because I think they're too small if you do that, right? And I am worried about the rebounding on this team. I've been pounding. I mean, this entire show has been pounding this front court is awful, and it's maybe the worst in the league sort of situation. You know, they lose Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, however you want to feel about Porzingis, I'm going to leave that over here. He's 7'3" and obviously is a big body. Whether he rebounds enough, like that's a whole different issue. But you're losing Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Cornett, everybody I think that covers the Celtics understands how important Luke Cornett was to their success. And then their best rebounder is Jason Tatum. Like they're just not going to have him. So they're missing 4 of either their tallest guys or their best rebounders, however you want to put it. So they're gonna be net negative to start the year in that regard. And I love Pritchard as a rebounder because he works his ass off. He's a really good offensive rebounder for a guy his size.
Yeah.
He just like sneaks in there and gets in there and frequently comes out with an offensive rebound. And I love that the majority of the time he looks to pull it out and reset versus like go back up very quickly. Because a lot of times when you're 6'1" or 6 feet tall, whatever you want to call Pritchard, just doesn't go well for you. But the part of that I push back on is I think they'd be too small. I'd rather start Hauser and keep that because I agree with the floor spacing thing with Pritchard. What you miss with Hauser that you get with Pritchard is the shot creation stuff, which is the other problem they're going to have this year is guys that are shot creators. Like, okay, you're missing Jason Tatum, who's your best rebounder and your best shot creator, which is just not ideal. But at the same time, you keep your floor spacing with Hauser, automatic 40% from 3 every year. I mean, he's just super consistent as long as he's healthy. And I value that, but I also value the ability to stay a little bit bigger. They're probably going to play double bigs. How they'll do that, maybe it's a mixture of Boucher and Queta to start. You know, we'll see how this goes. I think we're still in this kind of unknown thing. But I think a lineup of White, Brown, Hauser, then whatever 2 bigs, again, gives you the floor spacing. You sacrifice shot creation and half-court offense creation, but you're the ability to stay big and not get killed in switches. I think that's where I land on this.
That makes sense. I mean, wanting to keep the size in the lineup for rebounding, like, is understandable. I think where I come from, if I had to pick the starting lineup for this group, I would go Pritchard, Derek, Jaylen, Hauser, Queta. It's going to be small, but you're going to have Queta's rebounding. You're going to need Jaylen and Hauser and Derek and everybody to, you know, gang rebound and figure that out. But in my mind, you're already accepting a reality where you don't have Jason Tatum. Like you said, he's your best shot creator, he's your best scorer, he's your best rebounder, he's the best playmaker, really, on the team. And so if you don't have that, you almost need to double down on the strengths. And I think Payton Pritchard's shot creation and scoring is better than Chris Boucher's or Sam Hauser's rebounding. And so at that point, I'd rather just double down on what I'm best at while also lifting up who is the 3rd best player on my team. I think Boucher's cool. If I would almost rather him come off the bench as a Queta relief mechanism because I'm not the biggest Queta fan. I'm a little bit skeptical of how that's going to go this season, as I think a lot of people might be. I would love for it to just work out perfectly. The rebounding's there, the shot block is there, the fouling goes away, but I don't know if that's going to be how it works. And so having that big off the bench to sort of be that insurance policy, I think will be useful. And on top of that, I think just doubling down on the offense of let's just let Jaylen Brown do Jaylen Brown with as much possible floor spacing around him. Payton Pritchard, Derek White, Sam Hauser. I think that's sort of my ideal. Even if you don't want to call it starting lineup, that should be the lineup that gets the most minutes, and thus I think should be the starting lineup.
And the flip side of that is like, okay, so you bring in Pritchard off the bench with Anthony Simons. What does that look like, right?
It's bad.
So
the roster is bad.
Yeah. Well, look, beggars can't be
any
choosers
combination is going to be bad. It's
yeah,
the problem.
Beggars, this isn't ideal. This is a very different, conversation we're having in August than we've had in the past. But you look at the Simons Pritchard thing, and you talk about bench scoring, which is, hard to come by in this league, depending on what team you are. I mean, you look at Denver, right? And the one thing that we always said about Denver is you got to win the non-Jokic minutes because when he's on the floor, they're ridiculous, but the guys they bring off the bench aren't nearly as good. So you try and win that. Maybe Boston tries to flip that on its head a little bit, where you have two guys in Simons and Pritchard who can both score at a really unbelievable clip. You have Pritchard, who's the reigning sixth man of the year. Then you have Simons, who, again, we don't really quite sure how he's going to fit into this group and how long he's going to be with this group. But it's one of these things of like, okay, he can come off the bench and give you a good amount of scoring and a good three-point punch and a tough shot maker that you're going to definitely need. I look at that and say, is there a way to avoid a dueling banjo sort of situation where those guys do the, your turn, then my turn, then your turn, then my turn thing? Is there a way to avoid that to get a different looking attack of two guys that could each have the ball in their hands, spread the floor for the other guy because they're good 3-point shooters from wherever they are on the floor, and at the same time, like, make life easy for other guys, right? If you have Pritchard and Simons, well, maybe that takes a little pressure off of whoever they're going to play off the bench, whether that's going to be Gonzalez, whether it's going to be Shireman, whether it's going to be Walsh. Like, I could see that combination. And again, as you both and we both know, like, the Celtics stagger their guys, right? The past was, okay, we love having at least one of Tatum or Brown on the floor at all times. We're never going to not have one of those guys on the floor. You can't stagger this lineup similarly because you're missing the big key of having Jason Tatum. Is there a way for Simons and Pritchard to work together that is similar to what you're saying of like building on a strength? Can they build on their bench scoring to be their strength?
I think they can. I think both of those guys are comfortable playing off the ball as well, so it'll help. Like, one of them has the ball in their hands, the other one's coming off screens. They're screening for each other. Pritchard's an underrated screener, I think, with his, he's definitely shorter, but he's pretty stocky, so I think he can get in there and create some mismatches that way. But I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I also think the problem is a lot of the guys they're bringing off the bench are these wing players. Like, Baylor Shireman's probably going to get a lot of minutes. He's another one of these, like, bigger guards, basically. I think he's more of a big guard than he is a forward. At this point, you have Jordan Walsh, you have Hugo Gonzalez, who I don't know if he'll play a ton, but you have him. Like, a lot of the guys you're bringing off the bench are these wing types, right? And the big rotation is, well, not great, right? Chris Boucher, Xavier Tillman, Luka Garza. So would you rather do that, or would you rather play these, fast, get out and run, 3-point shooting heavy lineups surrounding Jaylen Brown? I think in the same breath of, we'll keep one of Jaylen or Jason on the floor at all times, it's going to be, all right, let's always make sure we have either Jaylen, Derek, or Pritchard on the floor. I think that's probably going to be, the solution. Maybe you include Simons in that group if he is around. I don't know how I feel about Simons. I think he's undoubtedly an incredible offensive talent. I think he's a great shot maker. I think he's an elite 3-point shooter. The defensive question marks are definitely there. We'll see if playing in this sort of system and getting, coached up by the Celtics coaching staff helps him with that. It could. I also don't know how long he'll be around, like you mentioned. It's question marks whether or not they'll trade him. We've heard stuff about maybe trading him by the deadline, or they're looking to do something like that. So we'll have to see. But I don't know. I just think it's important to have your best players on the floor at all times. And I think Payton Pritchard, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, that is the best 4-man lineup, not only now, but to plan for the future. And so in my mind, I think it's important to start those guys.
The flip side of what I'm suggesting is having a Payton Pritchard Simons backcourt, what that looks like defensively might be not great. And again, we love Pritchard's defensive. How do I want to put this?
Tenacity.
Yeah, right. He tries. It's not like he doesn't try. It's not for a lack of trying. It's just because like he's 6 feet tall. And then Simons, again, we'll see, but like the analytics are not kind to Anthony Simons when it comes to the defensive metrics. Mm-hmm. He comes out as one of the worst defensive players in the NBA. But to put a bow on this, like, I will back you up in this particular point. Is Payton Pritchard the point guard of the future for this team? He's certainly on a contract that suggests that they can keep him around. He's very affordable. He's not somebody you're looking to trade openly. If somebody were to blow you away for a Payton Pritchard trade, then yeah, fine, sure, we'll trade Payton Pritchard. Who cares? But the contract suggests that he's part of their future plans. I think I've heard Rich Gotham and Brad Stevens talk about how Payton Pritchard is part of their core.
Yeah.
When Brad said that a couple of months ago, my eyebrows kind of went like, "Oh, okay, so maybe they do see Pritchard as their full-time starter." And if the idea is to start him full-time, now would be the time to do it. Like, let him get a season that doesn't really matter, a season of run in to see what we really have. Like, because we know what he is at the base level, right? We know that he is a sixth man off the bench, no problem, right? We know that. Can he elevate himself to become something better than that? Because he has taken every opportunity he's gotten and run with it. So I have to give him credit there. So that this might be, to your credit, like as mentioned again, mentioning him as part of the core from two guys that mean way more than I do, is evidence that they think pretty highly of Payton Pritchard. And I think it's possible that he emerges as a starting point guard, but you'll know at the end of the season whether he is or not, if they roll with that particular element of starting him. So to your point, maybe there's more value than I admit in starting him right from the jump of the regular season.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big test season, I think, for a lot of players, including Payton Pritchard. Like, how will you fare when not only if they do give him the chance to start, but there's going to be infinitely more pressure on Payton Pritchard, right? Like, for as great as he was last year, and I do think he will continue to improve, because I do think he is better than people realize, even with this increased pressure. Like, instead of being guarded by the fourth best defender or the fifth best defender, you're going to get 1A some nights. If Jaylen Brown doesn't play, or Jaylen Brown or Derek White's on the bench and Payton Pritchard's leading the lineup, the best defender on the other team is going to be guarding Payton Pritchard. The best defender on the other team is going to be guarding Derek White. Like, these guys are going to have to deal with this increased pressure. And I think if there was ever a season, sort of like you mentioned, where Celtics probably don't have title hopes, or they always have championship hopes. Payton Pritchard himself said that, like, they're always going to try to go for it, but there's not as much pressure per se on them to win a title. There was ever a season for Payton Pritchard to sort of, get used to taking on that load of defensive pressure and, starting and playing a lot heavier minutes and, having the ball in his hands more. It is this year. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, nobody's expecting Isaiah Thomas coming to the top 5 of the MVP voting type season,
Yeah.
but it could be kind of fun. Could be fun to watch. And again, always rooting for Pritchard because as a short way, like, power to you, brother. I love that stuff. I do want to move quickly and wrap things up shortly, but one of the things that made headlines this week that we've been, between the last taping and this taping, is this wrinkle of what Wyc's role is going forward. And I think we kind of still don't have really a good idea. Like, Ramona Shelburne, I think, broke it down for us maybe the best. I know Himmelsbach added a little nugget to it after Shams Charania came out and said that Wyc will not be the governor of the Celtics like they had agreed upon. And then Adam Himmelsbach's like, wait a minute, that's not totally true. And then Ramona Shelburne said that Wyc is going to be the alternate governor to this particular ownership group, while our guy Bill Chisholm, who we love and respect on this show just because he seems to hype up CLNS a little bit, so we love that. He'll be the governor of the Celtics pretty much immediately, which was not the way that was written up, or at least announced at first. It was more of a Wyc's going to be around the next 3 years to make sure everything's going okay, and then Bill Chisholm will take over. Now it's Chisholm's there, and Wyc is the alternate governor. Does this matter at all to you? Because I got into a spirited debate about how this matters, at least from an appearance sort of thing. Does this matter to you, or is this like, who cares? We're moving on.
Well, I think it matters purely from the lens of it changes what was supposed to happen. And so the shift in structure matters. But I don't think it's going to be as big of a difference as Shams' initial tweet led on, right? Like, I read deeper into this ESPN article, and it says the change in structure was due to league rules, including minimum ownership. Grousbeck will end up owning slightly less than the required 15%, given final funding for the transaction. So it sounds like the only reason he's not going to do that is because of legal reasons, like literal league rules. Just like, it's basically just the title doesn't match what is allowed in the NBA's rule book, but he's going to play the same role he was always going to. It also says Chisholm and Grousbeck plan to run the team together as originally planned. So it sounds like nothing is really going to change except the fact that Grousbeck is literally not allowed to be called a governor of the team. He's going to retain the CEO title as planned, to be an alternate governor for the sale. Like, it sounds like everything is going to be exactly the same, except he's not allowed to be called that, right? It's like your close family friend who you call uncle, but he's technically not your uncle. Like, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. He's going to do the same thing. It's just you can't, like, technically not, right? Like, that's what it is. So that's what I've gotten from the situation.
That's a spectacular. That's a Colin Cowherd analogy right there. That was so good. That's a perfect way to describe that. And like there's a little pushback of like, does this actually matter? It's like, well, you got to understand part of the reason why people felt so comfortable with the transaction was because Wyc's still involved in, like, Wyc has gotten with the 2 titles, like, he's goated forever. Like, Wyc forever will he'll never buy. He's like Dave Roberts, like, never buys a drink in Boston, never pays for a meal. Like, you're goated. He is a fan, like an actual fan of the Celtics, and was before they acquired him, and like literally bleeds green and understands like what being a part of the Celtics family is. So like that is, and I don't think everybody, like every fan of every team, understands like how important it is, like for the Celtics to have this family of, we know what it takes to be a Celtic, what the stipulations are, what the expectations are. Like, this is what's expected of this group. And having Wyc involved keeps, like, it's like having Red Auerbach hang around forever, because he was the only thing that kept all of this together. And like, like, we look, Kuzi, I love him to death. Like, he's getting up there and eventually will be the last of this lineage of like the OG 1950s Celtics that were like the pioneers of so many things of NBA basketball. Wyc is kind of like one of our last connections to that. Like, KG is a little bit of a connection to that. Like, you have, Cedric Maxwell is still a connection to that group. Like, you still have like guys in every decade. And Wyc's going to be one of these guys that keeps his family sort of together. And Bill Chisholm says all the right things. Like, I got to give him credit. The guy has done all the PR things you need to do to win over a fan base without having to do anything yet. Like, the guy has not made anything happen yet, but has said like all the things you could possibly say to light up a fan base. And I think as a fan, having Wyc around just made the whole transaction to be more comfortable and made it feel like that the team was still going to be in good hands. And I think when Shams tweeted out that he wasn't, I think people panicked a little bit. Did you?
Yeah, I thought it meant Wyc was gone, right? Like, I think the way Shams phrased it was, yeah, Wyc is not going to be a part of the Celtics anymore, which is just completely not true. And we talked about this on our podcast too. Like, I don't think, like, for as much as Shams has done some whack stuff in the past, right? Like, in terms of draft lines or excuse me, like betting lines and stuff like that. Like, he's annoying, right? The tweeting the draft picks, that annoys people. Like, I don't think he puts out stuff that is like fake like that. Like, I don't think he like intentionally tries to mislead people. And so I do wonder if part of it was like the NBA said like, oh, he's not going to be governor anymore, and they didn't like really reveal why. And so Shams was like, oh, let's just get this out really fast, which is a problem in and of itself. And then he realized, oh wait, just because he's not governor doesn't mean he'll not be around the team. And then it's also on him to not tweet like a correction or a clarification. But I do wonder if part of it was just like he didn't have the full scope of everything that was happening. And then once it did, because like Ramona Shelburne tweeted a correction or a clarification like 4 hours later, like you mentioned. So I do wonder how much of it was just like, okay, not all of the information was readily available at the time. It was just came out like he's not going to be a literal governor still. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, having all the ducks in a row is really important. I'll get you out of here on this because we've kept you a good amount of time. Because I've made the point that I do think this upcoming season for Joe Mazzulla is kind of important, right? I think we need to see an evolution in Mazzulla ball, right? Because it did fail them. It failed them last year in the most important time of the entire season. I was there for game one. It was the most frustrating loss I think I've watched in person in my life, right? It was just super frustrating. So I do want to see an evolution in Mazzulla ball. And I think this year, again, of it being sort of a year where they kind of tinker with things, it'd be a great year to experiment a little bit. But I said this, and then all of a sudden, Jim Mazzulla got an extension last week, and all of a sudden, again, and they've always been sort of unclear, like how much Mazzulla is getting paid, how long the extension's for. He's just signed. The only time that we knew that Mazzulla was like the amount of time that we knew he was going to be around was when he was an interim head coach, and then all of a sudden at the end of the season they signed him, and then after that, we didn't know how long the extension was, how much money it was for, and now here we are again in a little bit of ambiguity. So I say that, like, all right, it's cool. They signed him. Like, obviously, they have a lot of faith in Joe Mazzulla, and they should. Obviously, the proof's in the pudding. He's won a ton of games. Okay, tons of games. However, you and I both know the NBA landscape changes constantly, and just because you're loved today doesn't mean you're loved tomorrow. And I don't think this extension, like, does anything for me in terms of Joe Mazzulla's job security. It doesn't for me. Does it for you?
I don't think it's fair to say an extension never does anything for a coach's job security anymore, right? Like, you look at Taylor Jenkins, you look at Mike Malone, you look at any Suns coach in the last 5 years, you can just get fired whenever you want, right? And so I think it's more just a vote of confidence and, showing their faith in him. If he comes out and they win 19 games next year, maybe you question things. I also think it's hard to look at next season in a vacuum of, if Joe does bad, Joe's a bad coach, because let's be honest here, roster kind of stinks, right? Past the first 3 guys, it's a lot of question marks. And I think on the flip side, though, it's almost an opposite of a normal year, right? Like, if last year's Celtics were really bad, right, in the regular season as well, like, let's say they squeaked by in the play-in, a lot of the blame would go to Joe Mazzulla because the roster's really good, so we have to place blame somewhere. If they're really good, right, obviously, like they were in the regular season, all the credit's going to go to the players because, wow, they have a really good roster. This year, it's kind of the flip-flop, for the coach. If they're really bad, well, yeah, the players are not very good. They don't have a lot of depth on the team. Like, there's reasons. If they're really good, or I think I missed my words there, but if they're really good, you can say, wow, the coach got the most out of his guys. And so, as much as I do think it's a great opportunity for Joe Mazzulla, which I think it is, and like I said, like, if he can get the most out of this team, they win 40-something games, they make the playoffs, that's a good year. That's a good year and shows a lot about Joe Mazzulla as a coach. I also think it is fair to judge him based on the way things go game to game, but I don't know how fair it is to judge him based on the complete outcome of the season. I mean, you have people asking him to tank anyways, right? So it's going to be a tough year to judge Joe Mazzulla, but an important one to, like, evaluate him at the same time.
Yeah, I just want to see some different. Like, I'm a big believer in what I want people to understand. I love Joe Mazzulla. Like, I think people think that I don't like him. I love Joe Mazzulla. I love the fact that he thinks differently than everybody. Yeah. Like, I love the fact that he's like, I watched Wales and learned some things. Or I talked to Pep Guardiola, who's one of the best football, we'll call it football, but soccer coaches in the world. I talked to them about how offense and defense are intertwined and how a play over here 5 minutes ago actually led to the goal over here. Like, I love that he does that, because I think if you're not thinking that way, you're not doing yourself a service, right? I loved when Eric Spoelstra acquired the Big Three. What did he watch to get inspired? Oregon Ducks football and how they would kill guys on the sidelines and use their speed to their advantage. And he was like, we can kill people on fast breaks because we're just way more athletic than everybody else. And that's like, instead of looking at past NBA things, no, we're looking at Chip Kelly's offense, and we're going to take Chip Kelly's offense and we're going to apply it to modern basketball. Like, I love that. Everybody loves Eric Spoelstra. I love Eric Spoelstra. He's amazing. And I love the fact that he goes to weird places to find inspiration. I just want to see a little different iteration of what Joe has planned here. And I think he can do it. I have all the faith in the world that Joe is an unbelievable head coach. I just think if you don't see it this year, then the next year, that year could be Mazzulla's on the hot seat and we all have to worry about it. And again, the past history of coaching this league suggests you shouldn't be comfortable with anybody at the helm at all. Like Mike Malone, whatever is going to happen, with him at any point. I have no idea. Taylor, like, how many good coaches get fired? I mean, Mike Brown got fired like the year after he won Coach of the Year. Like Dwayne Casey, and like all these guys.
The last 5 coaches of the years, I think, don't have jobs right now. Like, it's Tom just a
Thibodeau,
whole string,
right? Like Thibodeau did as much as he could with the roster that he had. I can't believe all of a sudden gone. That's like, how? Like, what did you want him to do? He went from a defensive coach to having one of the best offenses in the league. Like that was again. I love Joe. I think he's a great coach. I don't think he has too much to worry about, but the wrong season I think could derail him and could be really troublesome for him in his future in Boston. Jack Simone, my guy. A lot of things going on in your life. Hardwood Houdini, he's the Celtics reporter for that. He's How About Them Seeds. He co-hosts that show with our buddy Sam. He's putting out content like crazy, whether it's guys in their bag, guys shooting no-dip threes, guys playing defense. Did I miss anything when it comes to plugging you?
I think that's it. I do TikToks or like these short form videos. I haven't done as much because it's, you know, the off season, but I'll like the film breakdowns I did with Shireman Walsh and Amari Williams. I'll do like breakdowns of cool plays. I did a video on Derek White playing center last year. So I'll do stuff like that, and that'll pick up as the season gets going. But no, I think you hit it all. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Make sure you subscribe to Celtics Beat on iTunes, on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe to the Celtics CLNS All Access channel in the umbrella of the CLNS Media Network. Again, comment on stuff. People have been commenting like that my shirt looks stupid. I think my shirt looks good today. That's all right. I don't mind. I have tough skin. I had longer hair at one point, Jack. This is my favorite comment in the comment section of all time. I had longer hair like a beard. And somebody commented I looked like Charles Manson, and it was unfortunately like kind of true. And that's like, and honestly, it was so funny. I was not even mad. I was like, dude, that is just a diabolical roast. I laughed for days, and I was like, that's the funniest. I put it on like Instagram, I put it on Twitter, I put it all over the place because I just thought it was like the best
It's awesome.
insult I've ever gotten. So like I look at all this stuff, I read it, and if you make fun of me, like I don't really care. It's not a big deal to me. Just, you know, keep it classy, San Diego. Anyway, for Jack, for myself, for Adam Kaufman, this has been Celtics Beat. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. See you next week.